Women want to know about hormones, they want to know about perimenopause and menopause, and they want to know what is going on and why. Every woman is going to go through this. And so it's something that is a very natural part of the life cycle. And so what we need to really do is understand it and how we can move through it in a more harmonious way. I do feel like Chinese medicine addresses female issues way better than our traditional allopathic medicine here in this country. We need to lean into herbals, we need to lean into nutrition, we need to lean into diet, and those biohacking techniques that are going to be a benefit and a blessing to our lives. Welcome everyone to the Be Well Now podcast. Today, Nick, the curious patient, I'm the one beginning, and this is unique for us because we're talking about something a little bit unique for us, right?
I told him, I said, Dr. Ron Dummar, I don't know anything about hormone replacement therapy, menopause. I'm not a woman and I can't pretend. So I don't want to say something dumb, but I do know that we have a lot of female listeners and a lot of patients of yours ask about this all the time. And actually one of them found me after community acupuncture a couple of weeks ago and said, we love the podcast. Nice to meet you. I was like, oh, wow, you listen. It was like a beautiful thing. And then she said, can you do a podcast about this? So that was another point that I don't even know if I told you about.
No, you didn't.
But I know that the folks out there listening, they want to know.
Well, yeah, when I met with my staff and I asked them, hey, what should we talk about in this next podcast? This is what came up. And it wasn't even a question, and it didn't take time, and they didn't take a moment to think. They said, women want to know about hormones, they want to know about perimenopause and menopause, and they want to know what is going on and why.
A question I want to ask is, what is menopause and what is the mainstream narrative on what it is, and what is your, functional medicine, Chinese medicine background? How does that inform your view of this? Because I remember we did a podcast on TRT, testosterone replacement therapy, right? And it's like
that one was easier for us.
Well, it's like all my friends are starting it, or it's like as they get a little older, you're hearing about all the buzz in the male world, and it's like, well, that helps, but there's always something downstream, right? Mm-hmm. There's always in your world, there's a systems biology, from what I can understand, and it's like there's probably something that's causing the symptom, and you want to get to the root of that. So maybe all the symptoms that are menopausal have roots that can be addressed 100%. That aren't HRT. That's my guess, but I'll throw it over to you.
Well, that's a good guess because that's the analogy that I love to use all the time is a tree. And so the roots of the tree ultimately is what produces and generates the hormones. It's what generates health overall in hormone balancing. Okay. And what we have that occurs over time is that it starts to fade for women. There's a season of fertility. There's a season of a time in their life when they're most fertile. And then that season begins to end and fade away. And it's not a time that is this perimenopause, menopausal. It's not a time that is not expected. Let's put it that way. It's every woman is going to go through this. And so it's something that is a very natural part of the life cycle. And so what we need to really do is understand it and how we can move through it in a more harmonious way. And that's what we want to talk about today.
Are you saying everyone should take hormone replacement therapy then? That's the easy solution to everything?
That is the easy solution. Absolutely, 100% that it is an easy solution. But when you look at the roots of the tree versus the branches of the tree and the leaves themselves, it's like if we're looking at hormone replacement therapy, I'm replacing something that your body otherwise would be making. That's literally what it's called. We're going to replace it. So instead of my body producing leaves, I'm going to go out there or maintaining the health of the leaves. I look at those leaves and I see, oh my gosh, they're not doing so well. They're looking a little brown or yellowish, or they're looking dehydrated, right? So I go out there, instead of putting water in the roots so that they'll grow and nourish the leaves, I paint the leaves with hormone replacement therapy. And you know what? It looks better. It looks better for a little bit, and it feels better.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
It does help
feels
people.
Good to
helps
have
women for a while, maybe feel
short
better.
Term.
Yeah, short term.
In fact, with hormone replacement therapy, it's long term. Even the use of hormone replacement therapy, where we have more of the concerns for blood clots and strokes and things like that, which are very real concerns. Okay. And it's long-term use of, especially more in the oral hormone replacement therapy, But the use of these products longer term have significant consequences. Even certain cancers are related to the use of hormone replacement therapy. That's why, obviously, you want to make sure if you're doing hormone replacement therapy, that you go to a trusted care provider who's monitoring your hormones very regularly. Usually they'll do every 3 to 4 months. They'll do a hormone panel.
Masking symptoms versus solving the problem.
That's exactly.
Even my daughter was saying she was feeling sick this week and her mom gave her Tylenol and it really worked so well. And I had the toughest time having that conversation with her, being like, well, I imagine that your body was feeling a certain type of way and that was a signal, and maybe had you rested, or I don't know. I didn't want to like put down something that had made her feel better, but yeah. What is Tylenol doing? It's masking a symptom. Now that's like a small little analogy from my world. This is a much more complex situation, but where do we go from here? You know, how do we address the root issue when women are having real symptoms that are just obvious? I mean, I have no idea what I'm talking about.
So first of all, let's look at what that root is. So we're looking at the tree and we see the leaves, and we know the leaves are the hormone. Okay. And we see the hormone produced. And then we realize, okay, well, we can replace the hormone if we need to. Okay, that's an option. Well, what if we go back and then go down to the root and say, okay, well, what is the root? Well, at the root, there's an organ that produces this hormone. Okay, so what we need to be looking at is how do we nourish the roots? How do we provide for the roots so that the tree can properly take care of the leaves, which is the hormones? Because there will be better hormone regulation if the organs are in proper order. One of the things that in Chinese medicine especially too, but you can look at this biochemically through Western biochemistry also, that regulates hormones, we know, is the kidney and the adrenals. The kidney secretes cortisol. It actually produces testosterone and estrogen. The kidney and the adrenals will secrete these things. Okay. So when I meet with young women, I frequently will say to them, okay, here's something you need to understand. Before you started maturing, something was managing or regulating your hormones. Before you matured, something was doing that. You were definitively female or male, and you had hormone regulation and balance in your body. Something was doing that. And you had not reached the age of maturation, therefore it was not your ovaries. They were not functioning at the time. So what it was that was doing that was your kidney, your liver, your hypothalamus, your pituitary, and your adrenals. Okay? And specifically, we talk a lot about the HPA axis. You'll hear that a lot said and discussed when it comes to hormone balance in the body. So those are the organs we need to look to and nourish if we want to have healthy hormones long term. Even through our teenage years, if we have a disruption in hormone synthesis or balance, or it's causing headaches or migraines, that's what we need to be looking to first of all, is what's our diet like? Are we metabolically healthy? Do we have some sort of organ dysfunction or disruption in the body? And we can jump right into those and begin the process of bringing them back to health so that their hormone production can be optimal.
So HRT, hormone replacement therapy, can short-term help with hot flashes, vaginal dryness. I'm looking at some of the notes here because I asked you, I'm like, I need a roadmap of where we're going here. But there are some long-term risks. So we're talking about a short-term solution. So could women ever go on HRT, or what do you recommend they do?
I do think that, well, when women come to me, oftentimes by the time they get to me, they've been through an onslaught of providers and options. They've tried a number of things. And typically this is the story they give to me. I started hormone replacement therapy and it was really good. And then it wasn't.
Reminds me of my SSRIs,
it's really
Prozac
good at
and all
first.
The pharmaceuticals. Like I felt like I have a little safety net. I never get super down anymore, and then
And then your body essentially is the one trying to balance all of those chemicals out and all those hormones. And it's establishing its own sense of what it believes is homeostasis. And so there's these competing factors of how much hormone are being introduced or how many medications are being introduced and where your body believes homeostasis is. And so until you can actually get in line with the body, then you're going to constantly be at odds with it. So what we need to do is essentially get our lifestyle in sync with our life cycle, okay? Or get your cycle and your lifestyle in sync. And so one of the things I recommend to a lot of my patients, and this is even younger now, so we haven't quite gotten to menopausal or perimenopausal ages yet. But the younger patients, I like to talk to them a lot about cycle tuning. Cycle tuning. And cycle tuning essentially is looking at your cycle, all right, and understanding what's happening in your body and physiology as a result of that. So there's a lot of work that occurs. There's a lot of blood loss at a certain time in a female's cycle as well. And we've split this up into essentially 4 weeks. That's just ideal. Every woman is different. Every child is unique, and they all need to be treated in a unique way as well. And you can only do that if you're working with somebody, usually a functional medicine doctor, who understands the individuality and that nature of the body. And so that's who you should seek out. But what we want to do ultimately is help you to understand those 4 weeks. So week 1, essentially, we usually identify as this cycle or the menstruation itself. Okay, so you call that week 1. We're losing a lot of blood. And then week 2, you start to have a surge in estrogen. So you've stopped the bleeding. You're having a surge in estrogen. Usually women will start to feel pretty good around this time. This is a time when you feel the energy. You'll feel a lot more energy. You'll feel more interested in doing things. You'll feel a lot more expansive in your reach and in the activities that you want to do. And you should actually lean into that. So weeks 2 and 3 or sometime right around there, what we're looking for ultimately is to have you really be using those weeks as in these weeks, I'm going to challenge myself. In these weeks, I'm going to go on a blind date. In these weeks, I'm going to do a big hike, or I'm going to set a PR, or I'm going to do my personal best on something, right? But weeks 4 and 1, you need to be a lot more reserved for recognizing what's happening and occurring within your body. Now, when we don't cycle tune, what happens in a female's body is their cortisol goes up because it stresses their body out. They're under so much demand already as it is physically and physiologically to perform the function that is occurring within the body, and then to try to treat it as though nothing is happening. That is a problem. And it takes cortisol, it secretes it really, really in a significant way, and it pushes sugar into the bloodstream, and pushing sugar into the bloodstream creates over time insulin resistance. Okay, so insulin resistance is also a problem. Then we see weight gain, we see continued hormone dysfunction, we see liver problems, and liver has to work to secrete and produce a lot of hormones as well. But insulin resistance over time due to stress, increased stress, because essentially we're not acknowledging this 4-week cycle, and we're not acknowledging really what's happening in our bodies. We're kind of women are taught frequently to just put it aside or act like it's not there. So what we need to do is cycle tune, first of all, and say, I acknowledge what's happening in my body, that I have fluctuations, that I have ups and downs, and that's okay. And that is okay. So that's the first thing we have to do, okay, is cycle tune. You look like you have a question there, Nick.
I'm just blown away by the whole, sometimes I'm like, hey, life is hard. And then I'm like listening to you and I'm like, being a woman must be incredibly challenging. So I'm listening.
Yes.
Continue on, sir.
Well, yes. And again, if you are one of those young women out there, when I was a kid, I remember hearing the young women that I, went to school with and everything, look at me or even I remember them saying things sometimes like, oh, well, you're lucky you're a boy. You don't have to deal with this. And I've thought about that a lot. And to be quite frank and honest, I am not a female, right? I am not a female. But I do feel like Chinese medicine addresses female issues way better than our traditional allopathic medicine here in this country. And it's so much more sensitive to the cues and the swings and the ups and downs than allopathic medicine is. And so we need to lean into herbals. We need to lean into nutrition. We need to lean into diet and those biohacking techniques that are going to be a benefit and a blessing to our lives. And so when I look at these young women and I want them to know that menstruation, that cycle that they have, is a blessing. They're lucky. And one of the reasons they're lucky, now the difference between men and women, at least one, I think significantly, is that you would generally, and these are generalizations, everybody's okay with that. Let's participate together for a moment. Men tend to sweat a lot. They sweat so much more, and they often tends to be a lot more active, physically active, doing things, even especially at younger ages, you could say too, younger ages and into the teenage years, constantly like fidgeting and bouncing off walls and jumping and running, right? It's men and boys tend to be a lot more active. And one of the reasons for that is because it opens our pores. It opens our pores and it allows our body to begin the process of detoxification. And one of the things we'll talk about a little bit later is bentonite clay that helps our body to detoxify, and it will actually allow us and the liver to better address hormone synthesis as well. But the fact that women have a built-in detoxification system every single month, if they have a paraben, a plastic, if they have any sort of toxin in their body, they have the opportunity, their body knows it's going to happen every single month, to send that to the liver, to discard it through the uterus, and it's out of the body. Okay? We have a phrase we often refer to women as, and it's the more pure sex. Have you heard that before,
I have
Nick?
not heard that.
Okay, well, it's a very customary phrase that has been referred to that gender as the more pure sex. And that is the reason, in my opinion, why that phrase occurs, or why we have that phrase. And it is ultimately that they are able to excrete and eliminate, to detoxify toxins every single month. And so now they have this built-in detoxification process they should be considered lucky and privileged because of that.
So we started with something. Now we're
I know we jumped.
Going from you start with somewhere and then you go from A to Z. I get it. But I'm wondering where we head from here, because we're talking about menopause and now you're talking about young women.
There's a period of time.
Okay.
Yeah. So we talked about as well before, like what happens before we start menstruating, and that's where we talked about the organs, right? The organs maintain hormone balance. Okay, the organs are still trying to maintain hormone balance during that menstruation period of life, during that time of life. But what happens is the ovaries and the testes as well, but the ovaries play a significant role, right, in the secretion of hormones, because that has to be done in order to regulate the life cycle. Okay, so in order to basically regulate to regulate fertility, they have to have this cycle of up and down as far as estrogen and progesterone, okay, and follicle stimulating hormone. So all of those things are occurring throughout that phase. Now, once we start to get beyond that phase, a mother gets to be 40, right? In her 40s, 50s, that's really when we start to experience this perimenopausal time. And essentially that's where the ovaries are saying, you know what, our season of life is finished. We no longer need to be functioning. We don't have to be birthing babies or giving offspring. This is no longer one of our utility, functional uses anymore, right? And so that's just a life cycle process. And as that begins to occur, what we have happen is some people have referred to it as the ovaries drying up, but essentially the ovaries are shutting down. They're slowing down on the amount of hormone that they secrete. and they begin to turn that job back over to the kidney and the adrenals, the hypothalamus, the pituitary. Okay. So those organs have to take over the bulk of the responsibility again for hormone balance. Now, what happened if you, throughout that phase of your life, ignored it or were exposed yourself to significant amounts of stimulants, which would secrete cortisol and test the ovaries and overwork the kidneys, and even mothers at large, sleepless nights and lots of difficulty getting proper sleep and things like that. There are a lot of things that we go through in life, and they test the kidneys and they test the adrenals. They test our organs. Are we ever getting checked up on? Are we ever having a tune-up? Are we ever saying, hey, I need to check into my health and my organ systems, my systems biology, to see if I'm actually functioning as ideally and optimally as possible? And the more we can check in with that during that phase, that fertility phase of life, the better we're going to be as we experience perimenopausal and menopausal time.
So is it time to get your blood levels tested at Community Health and Wellness and
right now
get everything
is the time to do that as urgently as possible?
No,
yes.
But seriously, I mean, how else do you figure this stuff out?
So yes,
it sounds like a lot.
The perfect way to do that is to have your labs drawn, have them evaluated, see a functional medicine specialist, and what you're looking for is optimal health. Okay, you don't necessarily need. I have a lot of people who come in and they say, "Oh, I just need to check my hormones. I think my hormones are off." And it's like, that's fine. We can check your hormones, but I think if we check your hormones, we should also check your organs, because ultimately that's where the hormones are coming from. That's what's producing the hormones. So if we just check the hormones, we have basically a random spot in time of where your hormones are. That could tell me, okay, maybe we need to look back or deeper at this organ system. But if we just look at the organs themselves, we can have a really good picture of, is this person actually metabolically well? And how can things be improved? And that itself will begin to benefit the hormone system. Are there inflammatory markers way off? Do they have autoimmune markers that can be addressed with diet, with exercise, with specific herbals? We can address all of those things if we know. But if we don't look, then all we're doing is trying to paint the leaves on the tree, right? And as soon as we have an organ dysfunction, it goes inflammation, right? We have a cascade of inflammation. That sets off a disruption in hormone balance, which then we draw the labs for the hormones only. And then we say, look, the hormones are off. So we have to adjust the hormones. So then we have to paint some other leaves a little bit more. And then, okay, the body does a little balancing, and then it checks in, and then boom, it sets off another inflammatory cascade. And then boom, we feel like crap again. So then we have to go back and we have to look at the hormones. And then we say, look, it shifted over this way. Let's move it over here, adjust this up, adjust that down. And we're constantly doing this play of tweaking just a little bit in and out of hormones.
And the roots haven't been addressed.
And the organs haven't been addressed. Yeah. And that's the point, is we have to address the organs. So the first thing to do ultimately is to address your cycle tuning. Okay. Then what we need to do is we need to look at, okay, what are some stress reducing biohacks that we can work on? One of our favorite ones in the office is breath work, right? You've done that as well, Nick. Breath work is a very, very beneficial tool that any woman at any age can use and benefit from. And what breath work will do ultimately is it will lower the secretion of cortisol. If cortisol is secreted by the kidney and by the adrenals, it's going to push sugar into the blood. It's going to cause a major disruption in inflammation, and it will dysregulate hormones. Okay. So continuous spikes in cortisol lead to disruption or dysregulation of hormone balance, and they also lead to eventually insulin resistance. Those frequently go together. Okay. It's like doing breath work is like a reset button for your adrenals. And that's what we're looking at. That's what we want to do in this instance, is say, Okay, I'm feeling stress. I'm feeling a little bit crazy right now. I feel moody. I don't understand why I'm swinging like this or why I'm having these mood swings. Okay, let's check in and do some breath work and see if we can calm that cortisol down and bring us right back on that reset. Okay, so should we do a breath work or should we just talk about it?
Tell me what.
The breath work that I like to do, very simple one. You do for 5 minutes. You could do it for 3 minutes as well, but if you could do it for up to 5 minutes, but basically you breathe in for 4 seconds. And then you hold it for 7 seconds. And then you breathe out slowly for 8 seconds. Breathe out for 8 seconds. And then you repeat that again. You breathe in for 4 seconds. And then you hold it for 7 seconds. And you breathe out for 8 seconds. And simply doing that is going to reset your adrenals, bring your cortisol down, your stress. It's going to help assist in balancing the hormones and decrease the symptoms that you're experiencing, which are hot flash, night sweats, mood swings, right? So, and sometimes headaches as well go with that. But you're able to simply with that little hack, reset the adrenals. It's a good place to start.
Yeah.
Okay.
Diet's also a big deal. But again, I'm like trying to figure out if someone's at home, they're going to be like, what, you tell me to eat healthier food and breathe in for 4 seconds and out for 7 and whatever. Like, that's all you got for me? You know, I know that's not it, but we have to start somewhere. That's the place to start. We have to start somewhere, right?
Yeah. And it's the easiest place to start because regardless of where you are, as soon as you can begin to recognize that, you can breathe. Regardless of where you are. You may not be able to address your diet at that moment or consume a certain food or anything like that, but you can breathe at that moment. Okay. So that's definitely something that you can and should do. With regards to diet, what we want you to think about is farm to table. Think farm to table, then think anti-inflammatory, and then think nutrient dense. Okay. So these are things like cruciferous vegetables can be super helpful. Broccoli, kale. They help to provide a substance called DIM, and DIM helps the body, the liver specifically, in properly eliminating estrogen so that it doesn't become toxic. What happens with some women is that the buildup of estrogen over time, especially even the synthetic estrogen, can build up in the liver and it can become toxic. It's not properly excreted. So we need to make sure that we're excreting the hormones and eliminating them properly from the body. Cruciferous vegetables can do that. The DIM that you put in your body to support the liver and help with liver detoxification can do that. This also will help with your inflammation of the hypothalamus. So it helps to reduce these anti-inflammatory foods and this diet to reduce the inflammation to the hypothalamus. Remember, that was one of the axis, the hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenals. So critical for making sure that your hormones are in balance is that you do not have an inflamed hypothalamus. Something to help for the kidneys, the adrenals, hypothalamus to help with the kidneys, bone broth. Seaweed can be actually really beneficial, and a really good quality salt, like a good mineral salt can be very, very helpful for the kidney. Okay. And that will also help you if you're hydrated, because remember, we've talked a lot about hydration. Hydration is a lot about minerals. It's more about minerals than it is about fluid even. Okay. And so making sure that you have the proper mineral balance in your body through the proper use of salt is a really good beneficial thing. There are also phytoestrogenic type foods like flaxseed, mung beans. Those are things that can be very helpful as well. The things that you should avoid, I would say, with regards to diet, things like alcohol, processed foods, breads, pastas, like processed breads. If you get a really good quality and you source your bread well, and some people really like to make their own sourdough, that's probably a better option. But I would say generally highly processed, ultra-processed foods, dyes, preservatives, and then caffeine If you can reduce your exposure to caffeine, especially if you have the issues like we mentioned with cortisol, because that's going to push cortisol out as well.
Everyone seems like drinks caffeine. That's a tough one.
Yes. Yes. Well, caffeine keeps a lot of people going, and it also gets them going in the morning, usually.
So it's
hard.
It's a hard one. But
you've done a really good job with that, right?
Well,
on and off.
On and off. It's always on and off. Yeah. I find that when I go on vacation and I'm on a trip, I have to utilize caffeine because I don't sleep super well, and it makes me motivated, and it puts me in a better mood, and usually makes me more
having
excited
a little bit of caffeine.
Yeah, and then I'll end up coming back, and then I'll my body's very sensitive, get real dependent on caffeine. Anyway, today's day one of no caffeine after a brief vacation a few weeks ago, and I had to like wean myself off. Anyway, caffeine is no joke. It is a powerful drug upon which I often depend, and sometimes I'm quite addicted to.
Yeah.
But I do notice that when I'm off of it for a few weeks, finally the body starts to like rewire and refire to make me like happy and motivated just when I'm waking up. And I find myself waking up like with more energy, and it's a long game, and I have to trust it. And I feel like a lot of people don't want to like put their life on hold for that long. I'm a little crazy like that. And I don't know. Anyway, caffeine's a tough one. Back to some of these herbs.
I'd like to talk about some herbs actually, and some of the properties that are in these herbs, or some of the chemical components that are in them, and how they can help support you ultimately.
And are these things that you would, if someone came to you and they had their blood lab, their labs drawn, you would prescribe them a protocol where you'd give them some of these herbs and supplements and recommendations? I mean, they don't have to memorize each one of these.
You don't have to memorize these at all.
You're just letting them know.
Basically what I'm telling you is I'm going to give you probably 3 or 4 herbs that we use in one of my formulas that I've written called Night Sweats. Okay, and this formula is specifically for people perimenopause, menopausal, that are experiencing night sweats. We also have one called Hormone Balance. We have one that is called Hot Flash. And Hot Flash ultimately is for sweats during the day, right? But if you have sweats at night, it's actually a little different. It's a different presentation. And it's also a different condition. So we look at it more like a yin deficiency or a deficiency of the kidney, like a fluid deficiency within the kidney. So the kidney is not properly hydrating or distributing fluid throughout the body. And so what happens is there's a deficiency of, we call it deficiency heat. So there's a deficiency of fluid. And obviously what does water bring? It makes everything green, right? But as water starts to go away, and if we don't have as much rain, things turn dry, right? And they go brittle, and fire can come. And so that's really what ends up happening, is we have this disruption, and it seems so strange to people in their minds, because they're like, well, wait, but I'm sweating. Why am I sweating? Well, you're sweating because of the heat. And so your body internally is heating up because there's a deficiency of fluid metabolism, proper utilization by the kidney. So you develop heat either during the night or throughout the day. So night sweats, one of the herbs that is in it is called Shu Di Wang, or prepared Rehmannia. Okay, so Rehmannia root actually contains iridoid glycosides. So these glycosides can actually enhance the adrenals' ability to produce some of the steroidal genesis, like some of the steroids or some of the hormones that are made within it. So it helps with producing hormones. Whereas before you could say, okay, well, if I really stressed out my adrenals while I was a young mother, okay, if I really stressed out my adrenals and then all of a sudden my ovaries started reducing the production of hormone and they're turning that back over to the adrenals are like, hey, whoa, easy. This wasn't my job for a long time. You need me to do this again? All of a sudden they're caught and they need to make sure they get back up to their production capacity. So this herb helps those adrenals get back up to their capacity. Another one is called Shanju Yu, and this has flavonoids in it that will help with the mitochondria. And I love talking about mitochondria with patients because this is where our energy comes from. It's our energy production capacity in the body. And so if anything that can stimulate and help the mitochondria to produce energy for mothers, especially during perimenopause, menopausal time, is something that they want. It's something that they're going to need.
So instead of HRT, you're saying that a combination of diet, herbs, breath work, knowing, I guess,
cycle tuning,
all these things would you do this and take HRT, or would you get off HRT and start doing this? Like, what's a roadmap?
I work with patients in all combinations,
okay.
right? So I don't like to be the one who...
Because I know you want to talk about herbs for the 20 minutes.
I'll talk about it for another 3 hours.
I know, and I'm like, I don't want to bore people. Maybe if I bore people, I apologize. If he was on a roll and you're like, no, don't interrupt him. I wanted to learn about Shan Yao, Fuling, Mudan Pi, Zezi.
You're good. Yeah.
I know these herbs are helpful, and I know you're going to prescribe them, but I'm just, how do I use these if I'm a woman?
So we have the herbal formula. That's why I talked about that. We do have night sweats, and we have hormone balance, and we have hot flash. So essentially, we can prescribe these for you. Okay, so if you're suffering from any of these type of symptoms, these herbals are going to be a benefit for you, and they can help your body to, again, have the mitochondrial support that you need. They can help your body to produce the actual amount of hormone that it needs. It can help you from the organ level, and that's what we're talking about. Not everyone's tree is the same, okay? Not everyone responds the same. Not everyone has the same amount of leaves. But everyone does have organs, okay? And we can support those organs to produce the sufficient amount of leaves to make your energy and your movement through perimenopause and menopause as smooth and as harmonious as possible.
You have examples with your patients where they came in with difficulties and
our patients come in all the time with night sweats, or like they'll come in with these complaints, and we put them on these herbals, or we'll change their diet a little bit, and it completely absolves them.
Really?
Okay? And in very, very significant changes as well. In certain instances, they'll have very severe hot flashes, very severe symptoms, and it will dramatically improve their symptoms. Doesn't eliminate them. They still have a little bit, but it's manageable. And it makes it to where they're not even thinking about, I need to go on some drug, or I need to be doing hormone therapy. So all of a sudden it becomes perfectly fine and manageable for them. Okay, so we have that happen all the time. We see patients frequently, and mothers bring their daughters to me as well, right, for other hormone-related issues. But as mothers go through this period of time, and women go through this period of time, not just mothers, but women go through this period of time, and their hormones are fluctuating in a significant way, because their menstruation phase, or the season of menstruation, is ending, and they're coming to a new spring, let's call it, right? They're coming to this new phase, this new spring that's going to be just as wonderful or even more wonderful than it has been in the past, okay? And that's what we're looking for. That's what we want to help women achieve, is better health, more optimal health overall, and less suffering, let's say, through their perimenopause and menopausal years. There isn't a need to be suffering to such a degree. You're still going through the process, and we're going to help make that a lot less significant for you.
Did I cut you off on any herbs that you really want to talk about? Because there were a lot more.
I think we're fine. There's plenty of herbs that we can talk about in future podcasts as well.
Your practice,
Nick just hurt my feelings,
is littered with, and I say littered in the best way, art of plants and herbs.
Yeah.
Like, this is something you're so passionate about. So I actually know this is like, telling you like your babies aren't important is offensive to you. And I just want people to know out there, you're really fine. Care about plants and herbs and their ability to help.
Well, we care about them. Yeah. And the fact of the matter is, it's like, we are part of the earth. Our bodies are part of the earth. There's a signature intelligence within the plant. There's a signature intelligence that connects with our body. We literally become dust of the earth, and so does the plant. We both have that capacity, okay? We both have the capacity to be the same material. And so when I put a plant into my body, there's a bioresonance that is accepted by the body. And so I can receive that way better than I can some pharmaceutical product that was made in a lab and produced with some petrochemical that was extracted from who knows where in the world. Okay? We do not need the synthetic medicine all the time. It can be a great alternative sometimes, and it can be very beneficial, especially if it's utilized short term, and if the plan is to help you to get off of it in the near term.
Wow. I feel like that's a mic drop moment right there. Can we end there?
Sure.
If folks want to know more about your clinic and how to get a customized plan and get their labs drawn, how do they reach out to you at Community Health and Wellness?
So you can reach out to us at 435-50, oh geez. I almost gave you my personal phone number. 435-657-3696.
You can text him anytime.
Yeah,
he's not busy at all.
Text me direct. Yeah,
6 kids and a busy practice, and
so you can also
a burgeoning podcast. We're getting a lot of new listeners. We appreciate everybody. By the way, if you found value in this, come on, subscribe to the channel. Leave us a 5-star review. This is a labor of love, and it's a labor, but I think it brings us both a lot of.
We've done it because we love it, and I think our patients have encouraged us along in it, and so we'll continue to do it as long as people find value in it.
Be well now, everyone.
Be well now. Namaste.
Namaste.